I want to live for Jesus. I want to live with Jesus. I want to live within Jesus. I want to live from Jesus. I want to live for Jesus. You know, it's something I take so much for granted. You know, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. I read the Bible. I have a relationship with God who loves me, who protects me, who helps me grow. But I feel like sometimes I'm not really living for him. I mean, I realize that as Christians, God has kind of like set the standard very high for us, in a sense that we really must live for him. We really must live with him at the center. I mean, if we have a relationship with Jesus, it has to be that radical, that extreme. We need to live for him. And I'm not saying like I mean it when I say we have to live it. We have to live every day of our lives for him. Because I feel like personally there are days when I just don't live for him. There are days when I live and I forget him. You know, I forget that everything that I do has to glorify him in some way. But there are days when I simply don't do that. I simply get immersed in my thoughts, and that's a bit selfish, and I start to live according to my ego, my preferences, my interests, and yeah. But we have to live for him. And the thing is, there's always a way to live for him. There's our actions. I mean, there are times when we feel like our actions, what we do, where we go, like they are completely separated from our spiritual life, and it's all just our secular part of life. And we tend to separate the secular from the sacred, in a sense that we live. Sometimes we can feel like we're living two distinct lives. I mean, one with Jesus, with a relationship with him, when we serve him in the church, with our, community. But then we have the quote-unquote secular life at school, at work, and we might get confused and separate the two. But in reality, as a matter of fact, those two are not separated. It's just one life, and Jesus must be the center of it all. Jesus must be the center of our worship on Sundays when we worship him, but he must be the center when we go to school and we go to work. And that, my friend, who are listening, that can be extremely hard. In fact, I struggle with it so much when I go to school or when I go to so many other places. I struggle with it so much because the danger of not including Jesus in our lives, the danger of not putting Jesus at the center and not paying attention to our actions and not caring about our actions glorifying God, the result and the consequence of it is separation in our relationship with him. And another thing is that we might become a different person, a whole different person, when we don't think about Jesus, we don't think about God. And then we ask ourselves, well, do I really prioritize Jesus in my life, or I'm treating it as a side thing that has my second priority? And we really must ask ourselves that. And I do believe, and I realized it recently, that even in school, you can glorify God and you can put Jesus at the center. It might be hard. It is hard because you're with your school friends, your work friends, and that's a completely different environment from the church, from your Christian community. But we can glorify God through our actions. We can glorify Jesus through our actions. We can serve people. We can treat people. Think about what would Jesus do in certain situations. We can love people. We can inspire people through our actions, not getting influenced and not, not transforming into a different person that completely forgets God about in their lives. But we can show the world all radical love. We can inspire people to love like Jesus, and through that love, through our actions, through that servanthood, people can actually see the light that is in us, that came from God. So yeah, it's hard. It may be hard. It may be hard, but our relationship with Jesus means that we must put Him at the center every second of our lives. It might be hard, yes, but that is the truth. That is the cost of following Jesus and the cost of a relationship with Him. And we must give back the love that He gave on the cross and glorify Him through everything we do.